There you go.
There you go.
All right.
All right, everybody. All right.
We're recording to the cloud now?
Yep, you're recording. So, hey, everybody, this is Don Martin, and I just want to welcome you guys to tonight's Zoom broadcast. Tonight, I have two special guests that are going to be here to teach you guys how to show the plan through Zoom using PowerPoint. Now, I want to, in this day and age where, you know, some of us are practicing social distancing with the crazy dilemmas going on with the virus and things like that, this is a very important thing to learn how to do. And this is something that everybody not only can learn how to do right away, but you should be doing it already. Every single one of you. Because this is really where the rubber meets the road in terms of the business. So we have two very qualified individuals to help you learn how to show the plan by using Zoom through PowerPoint. And that's Pastor Pat from Central Valley, California, Modesto area of California, and also John Talmadge. They're both executive coordinators, and he is from the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. So thank you guys for doing this for the team. I hope you guys enjoy. You're going to learn a lot from here, and I'm going to turn it over to John and Pastor Pat right now, and you guys have a great time here.
All right. Well, I would like to encourage everybody that doesn't already have their video turned on to turn on the video so we can see your beautiful selves. This is something you're probably going to need to get used to if you're going to be doing the plan on Zoom anyway. I do a lot of, well, lately with one of my business partners, she's been doing a lot of the drawing of the plan, and I've been going as her third party. So I don't know, Pat, you have anything you want to start out with as far as getting stuff ready for a plan showing?
Yeah, I would just encourage everybody just to be patient with the process, because it just takes a little bit of time, but to be where you probably would feel comfortable. But it's important just to go forward. And there's just a couple things I wanted to mention before we start here. It's so important to be able to show the plan. Number one is because if you can show the plan, then you're not dependent on anyone else's timing. Okay, if you were a realtor and you could never show a house, you needed another realtor to be there to show the house with you, then you would be dependent upon that other realtor's schedule. And this is the kind of the same concept. So you're basically limited until you get out there and do it. My background with the plan was the thing that because I basically recruited myself. No one recruited me. And I've been involved in these kind of home-based businesses many, many, many years ago, and they never worked. And I would never have even considered doing this business if I hadn't seen this plan. And I instantly understood it. I instantly knew it was going to work, and I knew it was going to work for me. And so that's why it's so near and dear to my heart. And I get really excited when we start talking about the plan. So to me, there's 6 major skills that make you successful there, and the other ones that are not on this list are within those 6. But there's the shop from yourself. Number 2, evaluation approach. Number 3, showing the plan. 4, follow-up, which includes selling tickets, promoting education, and doing a trial run. And then there's retail events / trial size marketing. And lastly is teach and duplicate. So this is number 3 in my list of important skills. And just like anything else, when you first try to learn something, you're not super comfortable at first until you get some repetition. And that's the second thing I wanted to mention in the introduction. It's just repetition is the teacher. Repetition's the only teacher. Doing this over and over again. I didn't have a senior partner at the, that was interested in showing me how to show the plan or wanted to show the plan for me. And if I didn't show the plan wasn't going to get shown. So I had to learn. No one taught me how to do it. I just learned strictly through experience and doing it over and over again. The first probably 10 or 15 plans that I showed were pretty horrific. I'd actually like to see a video of that because it'd be a great comedy. I don't know if you can relate to that, John, but repetition is really what does it. I was at a Moving Up seminar one time, and David White had said, we need a lot of people showing crappy plans so that eventually a lot of people can show really good plans. So you can't do it well until you do it horribly first. Not horribly, but you know what I mean. In a way where it's not, you're not comfortable. You're comparing yourself to other people. I just want to encourage you that you will get better. In fact, from my experience, you'll get better between 30 and 50% of the time every time you show it. And that's one of the things I encourage people that just start out. Once they show it for the first time, and they don't show the whole thing in its entirety, I'll just give them a little bit to show and give them a little piece of it to help build confidence. But every time you do it, you're going to get better and better and better. So there's no shortcut to that. You just have to get out there and do it. And then lastly, I would encourage you to trust in the power of this plan. Okay. Because the right person that sees this plan, let the plan do all the work. Let the plan do all the work. When you're showing this plan, the right person who already has a need or senses a need, they will recognize that this is something that they want to look into further. And so your job is not to close them. Your job is to help them take the next step, which is part of the fourth skill that I talked about, follow-up. And so it just takes a little bit of repetition. So I just want to encourage you with that. So, you want to add anything to that, John?
Yeah, I would like to. Now, what he said about making mistakes and showing horrific plans, that's important. That's how we learn. You fall down before you learn how to walk, and then you eventually learn how to walk anyway. But you can also use that to your advantage. When I first got started, I really didn't want to wait for anybody. Nick was one of my senior partners that would come with me on some plan showings. And there were a lot of times when I would just set up plans and not have him there, which I don't recommend that you do that. But one of the things that you can do with people, especially if you're new, is when you approach them, you can say, listen, I just started this business. I really need practice. I need to learn how to do this thing. Do you think you could help me out? Sit down and let me show you what I've got. I'm going to make mistakes. I just need somebody to listen to me so I don't look stupid for other people later on. And that really helps, because if they're your friends, they're going to understand, and they're going to sit down with you and they're going to let you go. One of the things I would do is I listened to a Jim Winkler plan presentation that I really liked, and I took notes on every slide that he did. And when I would do a flip chart, and I would have the notes sitting there, and I would tell my prospect, I'm going to be going off of notes just so I don't miss anything. I appreciate your understanding. And they're like, yeah, fine, whatever, that's great. And after doing that like 5 times, I just started nailing it each time. I didn't have to look at the notes anymore, and it just kind of flowed, and it gives you the opportunity to put yourself out there without being terrified that you're going to make a mistake, because the person that you're sitting with already knows that you plan on making mistakes, because that's how we learn. And then once you get better at it, you're able to flow a little bit better.
Right.
Another thing that I think is really important, and I can't stress this enough, and everybody that I've ever sat with that's really good at showing the plan does this, and that is get to know the person you're talking to. Find out what it is they do. Find out about their family, ask them about their kids, find out where they are in their life, because these are all things that you're going to leverage later. If you're talking to a woman who's really, really interested in makeup, you're not going to use construction analogies. It's not going to look good. You're going to use something else. If you're talking to somebody that's a framing carpenter, you're not going to talk about shopping at Bloomingdale's or whatever. You're going to talk about Home Depot. You're going to talk about stuff that they're already familiar with, cars, whatever. And it just helps you jump into that a little bit better. Another thing I found that really helps, and this is something that I've heard a lot of salespeople do, is try and find out where they are in their birth order. I think the Whiteds actually did something on this. If they're the oldest in the birth order, they're going to be concerned with knowing that there are steps that they can follow, that there's organization to how the business goes, and you can come at it from that angle. If they're middle children, they're going to be more interested in being part of a team, being part of a group, part of a whole. And we've got that. I mean, we've got the steps, we've got the whole team concept. And if they're youngest siblings, 9 times out of 10, they want to know that there's some sort of a reward involved, or that they're going to get attention for something. And we do that too. I mean, how many times do we take somebody who's doing something for the first time and we applaud their effort? Look, that's important, and it's important to each of those structures. And I will use that on top of what I already know about them to give them examples of how the business works. Like if I'm talking to somebody who's an oldest sibling, I will painstakingly go through the steps of the business. If I'm talking to somebody who's a middle child, it's all going to be about, yes, well, we like to go to these events as a team. We depend on each other for things. And I will really play up the fact that if one person specializes in makeup and another person specializes in financial services, that you could get paid on both of those things because you're members of a team, and they really, really grasp that. And the youngest people almost always just want to be up on stage. So that's a good way to play it to them. You can get recognition. We have recognition, whole big, huge things of recognition that you can participate in. So I tend to use that to leverage where I'm going to go with the showing of the plan.
Okay, that's great. I appreciate that. That was perfect. Now, when you're thinking about showing the plan, again, the best scenario is to at least show it with at least one other person that is a business partner, or someone. They don't have to be a business partner. They could just be someone that believes in the business. But to bring somebody there instead of being one-on-one. Now, sometimes it's unavoidable that you don't have a choice. It's better to show it one-on-one than not show it at all. Okay, but if you want to bring other people and have them there, you don't want to have more than two. Or, I mean, sometimes if you have too many, it feels intimidating to the person because everybody's staring at them and all of that. But bring other partners in there, and it's just so much more powerful to have. So I would recommend having at least another person with you, and use it as a training for the people that are learning and all of that. So I would say John, you can just put up the first screen of the PowerPoint.
You got it. Let's get it.
And we'll get going.
Let's get this started. Okay.
All right.
Come on. There we go.
There we go. Okay, so I always, when you first start out, it's really until you get to know these slides, it's really easy to get ahead of yourself. That's the first thing I noticed that I was doing. I see unfranchised, and I start explaining what a franchise is, what it's not. There's going to be screens on that. Okay, so that's the part of being familiar with this, is that you understand what's coming, so that you don't say things too soon and repeat yourself too many times. Even though repetition is great and all that, it's not the end of the world if you say something about it, that ahead of time. But I just say the name of our company is marketamericashop.com. They call it the unfranchised business. And it's, and the other mistake is like, well, you start talking about the company, how long it's been around, but that's going to get into that. So let's go to the next screen. There we go. And this is a little bit dated because it's 28 years or maybe even more by now. But I just talk a little about the company. It's a 27-year-old global product brokerage and internet marketing company. It's centered in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I talk about the Better Business Bureau because I say what I'm really excited about, really proud of, is that our company has an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, and it's had that since its inception. And we won the Torch Award in 2013 and 2018 for trust, performance, and integrity. And it's great. It's a great thing to be able to have a company that is so well respected. And I talk about all these companies that don't have A+ Better Business Bureau ratings, like British Airways, Amazon. You could even actually go online and look and see, and you can Google it, and you can find a bunch of big companies that everybody buys from not have an A+ Better Business Bureau rating. And so how often do home businesses have something that is this well respected and recognized? So we can go to the next slide. And again, the Torch Award. And so if you don't recognize some of these slides, it's because Don kind of created his own, and the psychology behind that's really wise. And Don's usually ahead of what the company officially does, because usually they're taking their cues from people that are in the field and actually in the trenches, and he is. And so, you know, the UBP PowerPoint, a lot of the PowerPoints that people show from the UBP one is geared towards, you know, the people that are seeing it for the second time. They used to call UBP, or unfranchised business presentation, they used to call them second looks. And so a UBP is better having people at that with no, you know, I've already seen it once. They've already seen it one other time. So when you're talking about the evaluation approach, you know, you're asking for referrals. You're asking for business referrals. So, you know, the questions at the end and some of the questions that, you know, it asks, like, do you want to see the 45-year plan or see the 2 to 3 year plan over the 45-year plan? You know, it's kind of smacks of a pitch book, or you're trying to sell them based on the questions when you've already told them the reason why they're looking at this is for, you know, to evaluate it for business referrals. So he came up with this PowerPoint that better fits the evaluation approach. And, you know, I predict that they'll make another PowerPoint that's better fits, you know, when you're showing 2-on-1, or, you know, at HBP, a home business presentation, and not a second look. Because by second look, they've already seen it once, they've already expressed interest. So now they're going to be talking about these other things and asking these questions that better fit somebody that's looking for themselves, if that makes sense. So anyway, it gets to the Torch Awards here. We can move on because we talked about that. And then we talk about this, and I really like to focus on this page. I don't rush through this. Some people think, oh, it's a bunch of numbers, but numbers are important, you know, for us, why everything is so successful. So I basically talk about 3 things here. I talk about the top left number, which is accumulated retail sales. Now it's like 9.5 billion. And then I relate that to the 2 numbers that are in the center, where you have the retail profit and the commissions earned, and the total of those 2 numbers equal the larger number on the very bottom of the screen. And I point out that equals over 50% of the accumulated retail sales, I asked the question, what company do you know gives back over 50% of the total sales back to its people? And they're all like, no, I don't know of anyone that, I don't know of any company that does that. So that's the first little thing I talk about. And then the second thing is I go to the graph and I talk about how we've never had a down quarter. And then I point out, which is really exciting, is that if you look at 2008 and 2009, in the Great Recession, you can see that we had year-over-year growth, even in that particular time, challenging time in the economy, because when in challenging economies, people want to save money and they want to make money, and that they totally get that. And then the third part is those 3 boxes on the left. And I just go through it. You know, thousands of unfranchised owners have made $300 to $3,600 per week, and I always add or more. More than 500 unfranchised owners have earned in excess of $1 million in commissions, and we're adding new $1 million earners every month. And so I said, those are the numbers, and it's so exciting to be part of a company that's growing exponentially. And in our area, in my area, in the Central Valley in California, this really doesn't exist at all. And it'll be a long time before I run into somebody that goes, oh, I've heard of that, that actually is correct. Because some people tell me that, but I know they haven't heard about it. And I go, I think you're talking about Shopify, or you're like, oh yeah, that's what it is. You know, but we have just wide open here. I mean, hundreds of thousands of people in this area. Just within an hour drive, there's, over 1 million. So lots of people. So anyway, I go to that page, and then next page.
Well, if I could just add something here. Nick Friday has a really good analogy for this, because a lot of people, if you talk about unfranchised owners having earned in excess of $1 million in commissions and how big the $1 million club is and all that stuff, sometimes that pushes people off because they don't think it's possible that they could do that well. So one of the things that Nick does is he uses a gym analogy. Some people go to the gym because they want to look like Schwarzenegger or they want to look like Dwayne The Rock Johnson. Some people go to the gym just to get toned up and to get in shape. Some people go to the gym because they want to lose a little bit of weight. What is it that you want? Would an extra $300 a week be helpful for you? I mean, could you make a car payment with that? Do you want to cover your mortgage? Or do you want to look like Schwarzenegger and end up trying to make, trying to make $1 million and be a part of that club? It's something that fits for everybody, and I think that's important with a lot of people, because sometimes overwhelming success is overwhelming, and they can't quite handle it.
Right. Yeah, I know. I that's a good point. I do bring that up because I do talk about what's possible. I leverage other people's success and my own, and all of a sudden, and also at times I'll say, but there's some people that, they just want to make an extra $300 a month, or just make a car payment, or just make it real for people. Because just like what you said, sometimes you throw around those bigger numbers and they just can't relate to it, and it just seems too good to be true. So that's a great thing to bring up. So then we talk about the two different categories of products and services. We're talking about two divisions basically that feed one company. And we talk about all these bullet point things here. We don't rely on one product. And I heard this once and I've always used it. If you rely on one industry and you're dependent upon one trend or whatever, then you're kind of like a store in the mall, but we're the whole mall. In fact, we're the whole shopping center that holds the mall, and I talk about how all these categories, billion-dollar markets, these categories feed each other. And I talk about it's much easier to expand, and I don't say share a customer, I just make it something that they know what it is. You expand how much a person buys versus getting a brand new customer. That's why companies are always remarketing to us or going over and over again, trying to get us to buy more, because it's easier and cheaper for them to do that than it is to get a brand new customer. So we talk about the latest trends. We talk about it eliminates the burden of manufacturing, that we don't manufacture anything. We have access to multi-billion-dollar industries, and we can go even further. And all these new industries that are coming online, if they passed our criteria, then we'll bring them on as a whole new category, like we just did with jewelry. So that's just, you have to be able to talk about, and this is true even if you're not showing in the plan, you have to be able to talk in themes and talk about, we need to be able to explain product brokerage. And one of the easiest ways I've found to do that is to say, how Target and Walmart and Costco, they all have their private label? They go, yeah. I'm like, how come the stores want us to buy those versus the name brand, even though it's cheaper for us to buy? And I'll wait for the answer. And they don't, I'm not sure. Because they get a bigger margin for that. And so they don't have to pay for the name brand. They don't have to pay for all that. They just find the best in class that's out there and then bring it in and put their label on it. We do the same thing. And I said, do you understand kind of how I'm explaining that? And they're like, oh, I totally get it. Totally understand it. I said, well, that's what we do too. So we don't have any bias. We go out there and we find the best that's out there without any, prejudice, and just say, we want to carry your product. We want to private label it. And then if the trends change and all of a sudden this particular, product line or category or whatever isn't popular anymore, we don't have a whole manufacturing facility that we have to, close up or repurpose or whatever. We just say, take our label off that. We're done. Thank you. And I said, isn't that brilliant? And they go, yeah, that's really smart. I said, so that's what we do. But we do it instead of having all these layers of marketing margin that gets distributed around to different entities up that chain of distribution. Now we get that. And so now the marketing dollars that normally would go towards, and he's going to get into that in the next slide. You can switch it over to the next slide. We can do that. We have all these categories that we can, and I go over all the different categories. I go fly through this. I've seen people fly through this. You need to give examples of the different products and even maybe share a few testimonies and really, when you're a person that loves to share the plan and lead with the business versus leading with product, which we need to be doing that too, it's really easy to skip over this and minimize the importance of the products. But we're built on product and we're powered by people. So it's important that we understand all these different products. And that's why we have to become a product of the product, so we can give testimonials, not just about our, other people that we know or heard of, but also from ourselves, and say, this really helped me with this helped me with that, and give those testimonies. And then they can start, it puts a little bit of life to these different categories. And then always emphasize the coming soon. Like, there's never any limitations to what products we can carry, because since we're a broker, we don't have to come up with the recipes. We don't have to manufacture it and all these things. We can just put our label on things. And so it's always exciting because we're not pigeonholed into one industry. We can be in all the different industries that are profitable. And most of them, I always remind them, most of them are consumable. So people have to buy them over and over again, which translates into ongoing sales and ongoing income. Do you want to add anything, John?
Yeah, well, I'd like to say that when I talk to people about this particular part, I tell them that I'm not looking for anything flashy. I'm not looking for anything that really grabs their attention. I don't want to sell something that's trendy. I want to sell something, I want to sell that thing that people just automatically reach for without thinking, because those are the consumables. Those are the things that they're going to be using time after time after time after time. And how many businesses in the direct sales industry have gone out of business because the trends changed, and they only had and they were only pigeonholed, like Pastor Pat said, they're only pigeonholed in one industry. They can only take care of one thing. I want the baby wipes. I want the nutraceuticals that they reach for every morning, and they don't think about reaching for it. They just do it. I want the personal care products, something that's going to sit in the shower, they're going to use every single day. Those are the items I want to
Right.
have in my business, because those are the ones that are going to last.
Perfect. All right, and then we talk about the partner stores. So again, you need to speak fluently in product brokerage, and you need to speak fluently in partner stores or affiliate stores. And all I say is there's thousands of partner stores that we have, and those partner stores want people to be able to share with other people that they should shop at those stores. And so we have the power of the personal one-to-one marketing. It's really important because everything's going that way. He's going to get into that in a moment. But these partner stores are huge because and I talk about this all the time with people. My customers create a free account, and then the same marketing dollars that would normally go to Google, when someone goes to Google and then to these stores and shops, goes to the customer in the form of cash back, and then the rest of it goes to me on the back end. Isn't that brilliant? And I nod my head yes. And they're like, yes, that is really smart. I said, so not only do we have all these different categories of products that we private label and get 30 to 50% retail profit on, there's also these points that are generated that pay us commissions, which we'll get into a little bit later. But these actually give us commissions as well. It's called a shopping annuity, and these points add up, which we'll get into in a moment. But it's so brilliant that we can get a piece of everything. And I go off a little bit about the old PowerPoint. I'll just say, the average income is, after taxes, I think $56,000 a year. Of that, 17,000 17,000 something can be redirected back through our business. And so those large dollars translates into ongoing income. So, and I'll just ask them, you shop at any of these stores? Yes, I do. Okay, great. So now you as a business partner would have the capacity to be able to earn money from not just your shopping, but anyone connected to you. So we can move. Here we go. All right. So now this is off the old PowerPoint. I like the colors, it's just so 90s. No, I'm just kidding. But we talk about 3 different ways that we earn income, because people want to know how we earn income. So we earn immediate profits, volume-based commissions, and then convert spending into earning. And so again, 30 to 50% gross retail profit, and we can convert up to 300% or more customizable. We can have customizable products and services to get the higher commissions, but we get immediate profits. We get 30 to 50% immediate gross retail profits. No, we don't share that with anybody, and that can be very, very substantial. I talk about my wife's custom blend that she does and how much profit she makes on that, and how great it is. And if I'm talking to a woman especially, my wife is usually with me, and she can talk a little bit about that. Then I say also volume-based commissions. And so the marketing dollars, the marketing margins that normally goes to pay for advertising goes to me, which is great. And so and it's not just the commissions that are based on other people's sales connected to me, but also thirdly, we can convert our spending and earning. And I'll say, what if you could take everything that you purchase and that turns into an annuity and that pays you residually for the rest of your life? Wouldn't that be interesting? And they're like, yeah, that would be amazing. And I said, then if you combine that with anyone connected to you on their purchases and you earned equally, not just a descending percentage, or diluted percentage, but actually the same percentage credit towards commissions, wouldn't that be even more interesting? And like, yeah, that would be amazing. Like, that's what we have. So we have 3 different revenue streams that are feeding one marketing plan. Anything you want to add, John?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
You pretty much covered it on there.
Great.
You ready to go to the next one?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're a unique time in history. We talk about this. It's a shift in wealth that's moving, and because people don't listen to mass marketing anymore, they just tune it out. They fast forward through commercials, and people aren't listening anymore. And we're positioned, and he's going to get into that, I believe, in the 3 trends or the 4 trends coming up. But it's all about where the margins go. And by having our collective buying power together, then we can leverage each other's purchases and have that turn into an ongoing income stream. So you can do the next one. There we go. There's the 4 trends. Now, anyone on my team knows how excited I get when I get to this part. And so, again, you need to be able to talk about product brokerage. You need to talk about what affiliate marketing is, the partner stores, and you need to be able to talk about that. You need to be fluid in that. But you also need to be fluid in these 4 major trends. And our CEO, J.R. Reidinger, was a visionary and has envisioned this so many decades ago. And now everything's coalescing and happening concurrently at the same time, which is we're just perfectly positioned for this. And if I can get somebody at the end of me explaining these 4 things to say, this is exactly what's happening in our culture, then I've done my job. So I talk about retail store collapse, and I talk about how the square footage of retail stores that are closing is getting more and more every year. And people see that. And I said, have you seen that yourself? See, again, you want to keep people engaged by asking questions, and asking questions where the answer is going to be in the affirmative, and so I'll ask them, what kind of stores have you seen close? And they'll go through their list of ones that they know of. And like, it's happening everywhere. And then also that goes with that is the second one, the rise in online sales. And I'll have people raise their hand. Who thinks there's going to be less online sales on Cyber Monday this year than last year? And I'll say, no one raised your hand. How come? Because you all know that it's getting more and more every year. More people are buying online, especially now with everything going on. So many people are buying online. I tell them, I work at UPS. The whole reason why they built the hub that's a 1/4 mile long that I work in is because of e-commerce. And I say, how many commercials do you think are based on websites? And I ask them, and they're like, a lot. I'm like, yeah, almost every commercial that you see is for a website, right? Everything's going that direction. Wouldn't it be great to be able to get a piece of that? The answer is yes. That's the answer I'm looking for, because I'm looking for the affirmative answer. Then I get into the one-to-one marketing, replacing mass marketing. We already covered that a little bit, but people now care about what people think that they know about first-time buying decisions way more than they ever do about radio ad or TV ad. And I'll say, if that's a little bit cloudy for you, how many times have you seen anyone put on Facebook looking for recommendations? And they say, oh yeah, I've seen that. And then how many times have you ever looked on Yelp? Oh yeah, I've looked at Yelp. How many times have you gone on YouTube and looked at a product review to find out what an unbiased person, even though most of them are paid to give their reviews, but how many of you go and watch these tutorials and all of that? And so, they'll say, yeah, that's exactly right. People do that. And it's like, why do they do that? Because they don't trust people give advertising to them anymore. They trust what people say that they know. I'm like, but no one gets credit for that. I can recommend a movie and you could watch it and then you could recommend it and they could recommend it and they could recommend it and they could start a whole chain of influence that goes 50 to 60, 70 people, but no one gets credit. I started that chain of influence, but no one gives me credit. And the reason why they can't credit me is because they can't track it. But our company's found a way to track it because they have a tracking system that gives credit to everybody's influence. And they're like, wow. I said, isn't that amazing that someone could do that? Even before computers were prolific, they actually, JR, our CEO, thought of how to do that on paper. It was amazing. And then I said, lastly, the rise of entrepreneurship. I'm like, do you believe there's a rise in entrepreneurship? And some of them are like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I'm like, well, have you ever heard of Uber? Oh, okay. You ever heard of Uber Eats? You ever heard of DoorDash? You ever heard of Airbnb? You ever heard? And like, they're like, wow, that's true. I said, you don't think of those people as entrepreneurs, but they're 1099. They are entrepreneurs. And now it's cool to have a side hustle. Back in the day, you'd have to get multiple jobs, and that wasn't a cool thing. Now side hustles are cool. And the reason why it's cool in the sense of popular is that ends aren't meeting. People are not making it. People, because of companies not wanting to pay insurance, they give people part-time hours, but they still have full-time bills. And so they have to cobble together different ways to make money. And we have a solution for that. So if you think that there would be nobody interested in this, would you rather do an Uber all day or have people buy from your 8 different websites? Is that what does that, do you see that? Like, yeah, I see that. I get it. And so now it's like, okay, so how many people do you know that would like to make an extra $300 a month, an extra $600 a month, or just the retail profit alone would be huge instead of having to do their other things, instead of doing DoorDash and, delivering French fries to people or, whatever it is. So, and I'll ask them, do you see how all 4 of these things go together and how all 4 of these things are working concurrently right now all together? You could be, benefiting from this, or, as I mentioned in the beginning, you might know people that would be perfect for this. Maybe you're, it's not the right time for you or you don't have time for it, which is totally fine, but you may know the perfect people that be looking for this. And if you could recommend them to me, as I mentioned, we can work something out that would be mutually beneficial. My voice just cracked. I think I'm going through puberty again. Anyway, John, do you want to add anything before we move?
Just what you said. If you can use examples from each of the things that can get them to agree, get people to agree with you, you're making it more interactive, and you're pulling them into the conversation rather than just being somebody that sits there and just goes by rote over everything that's happening. You want to ask them questions, like Pat said. You want to get them answering affirmatives to everything, so that when you get later on into everything, you say, well, who do you know somebody that would be interested in something like this, that would be willing to look at it? And all of a sudden they're so used to going, yeah, that it just becomes almost like a normal reaction for them. And
right.
you can start getting more information out of them as to who you can approach next.
Yeah, and I just want to encourage you, if you're thinking I'm never going to remember all this stuff, the only reason why I can say it like that is listening to so many audios and and you could listen to this over and over and over and over and over again. I'm trying to get to 100 times of listening to master building techniques, and and it just takes that kind of repetition to where you've heard it so many times, and then you saying it over and over again, it starts clicking. And while you're talking about these themes, it'll spark it'll trigger your memory to be able to remember these other little details. And again, you don't have to cover all the little details at all, but they need to understand why our company is perfectly positioned to take advantage of these 4 trends, because no other company can take advantage of all these 4 trends. So, all right, we can move on. So I love this because this comes from the 7%, 93% number comes from the conference that Don went to, where in 2017, 7% of the buying decisions were made for first-time purchases of products and services were accomplished through traditional marketing, and 93% came from peer reviews and recommendations. So that just, when you say that to people, they're just like, wow. Like, yeah, they think they're being so effective. I think it's $50 billion a year and they spend in advertising, you know, so much of their wholesale costs and everything is built into all that, and their retail cost is the advertising that they think is so effective, and it's not. So I explained that it just doesn't work anymore, and that their solution is to basically pay influencers to recommend things and have things placed in their videos and all of that. The problem is there's not enough of them to go around. And number two, we have far more influence in the people's lives that we know than any professional influencer. And so with our company, we're able to track all of that. So that's what I like to say on that slide. Okay, so he talks about the company's willingness, the other companies, traditional companies, to reallocate their ad dollars to be effective. So as we grow in numbers, which we are, and we'll continue to grow, our collective influence gets stronger and stronger, and our buying power, purchasing power, basically gives us more leverage so that the company can wield more negotiating power when they're talking to the company saying, we need this amount of margin back that helps pay our people. We have more clout to do that, and that's going to happen. So the more people if we had, let's just say, twice the amount of unfranchised owners, then it would wield so much more leverage in allowing people to, or allowing our company to get us better margins for our commissions and everything else. So he's talking about here the digital aggregation, our collective consuming influence. He's talking about the same thing, captures the margin and injects them in the compensation plan to pay the people actually creating the demand and the business. So this is where you can talk about the chain of distribution. So you have manufacturers and distributors and wholesalers and retailers, and we're the last one in that chain of distribution where we are consumers. But we're the only one that we don't get a cut. We don't get some margin for that, for our influence, but we're the ones that are driving demand. So this is a way that we as consumers can actually drive demand in a way where we get compensated for our influence. And so it's only possible because of that tracking system. That's the key to explaining how we can do what we do, is our tracking system. Okay, next slide. All right, what makes us different? The compensation plan. So we'll get into that. Now, first thing, and it's so great that he made this PowerPoint, because what I always had to do is, because of my MLM background, I had to explain what we're not before I explain what we are. And I just did that on my own. And I would draw out, especially when I'm drawing the plan, I draw it out. And people on my team have seen this so many times, but I draw the horizontal plan, and that's what I would do. But here I don't have to draw it out. So what you're doing here is contrasting what we're not. And so that when we get to what we are, they can see, and this is really important to be able to do that. Really important to be able to explain what we're not and show them that, and it's really important when we're talking about the horizontal plan, the MLM plan, and all these other plans, that we're using the word challenges. Don always uses the word challenges. He doesn't just necessarily talk about problems. He talks about challenges, because people are in this model, and he doesn't want to distract them by being offended by his wording when he's just showing what it is so people understand it, so that they can further appreciate or better appreciate our marketing structure. So that's what you're talking about. And you're saying there's different examples: real estate, insurance, chain stores, franchises, and MLMs, direct sales, traditional MLM marketing. And those models are horizontal in nature. So you can move to the next slide. And so those are set up this way, where you have the main person that's up in top, and he gives the examples of insurance companies, franchises, and most of the time Don will use the example of a real estate broker. And he'll say the broker makes 100%. Everything that they sell, every home that they sell, or business, or whatever it is that they're a broker for, they make 100%. The problem is they actually run out of time, and so they have to get people under them. And the people under them, they have a direct relationship with him alone. They don't have a direct relationship with each other in the sense of monetary compensation. And so he'll say that the broker makes so much percentage. Let's say the broker, makes 6%, on a house. But when the broker sells, when he gets 100%, but when his realtor, which is the second row, you can just, say it's just each one's a realtor. If one of them sells a house, then, and they make 6%, then they keep 3%, and then the broker makes 3%. And then he talks about how and sometimes they have people underneath them, and it has to get diluted in this model. Every level has to have less commission to people on that particular level, because they are actually sharing some of that with the level above them. And the broker at the top that makes 100%, they want as many people and many realtors as possible. They want to go as far horizontal as they possibly can, because they make what? And they'll say more money. That's right. He makes more money the more people that he have. But the challenge, and again, he uses the word challenge, not problem. The challenge that exists in this model is that the people that are next to each other, there's one word that encapsulates their relationship with each other. What do you think it is? Again, you're keeping them engaged. And they'll guess different things. And then someone will say competition. You're like, that's right, competition. They're in competition with each other. And so they don't benefit from each other. And same with the people underneath them. They're in competition with each other on that level, but also in competition with the people above them, because they're, they would like to be the people that are at the top and so forth. And so the downsides he gets to there is competition. There's percentages and levels, because it can only go so many levels down before the last level. And then you're pigeonholed because you have one product or industry typically. So what our company did is solve that. And so let's go to the next slide. All in competition. Yep. So the vertical marketing. Okay, so he's going to contrast that, and John's going to take over. But the biggest point you want to drive home with the MLM structure is that and I used to draw this out. Your top level, they call it your front line. Typically, you make 10% off each one of those people. Then your second level is your first level's first level, and you're making about 8%, 7% off that level, and then it goes all the way down to however many levels it has. Usually in a multi-level marketing model, then you're going down 7 to 10 levels, somewhere in there. And the last level, you're getting maybe 1%. And then after that, I call it the vanishing point, because you make nothing after that last level, unless you're like this ultra superstar and they give you like 0.5%. But usually you never make it to that level, because you quit, because, you're frustrated and so forth. So, we talk about, that the structure failed the people. You didn't fail the structure and so forth. And so you have the competition and of all these other challenges that he's going to get into. But, you just want to eliminate the competition. And so I emphasize again, this is what we're not. And so many times people think this is what they're going to be seeing when I do a presentation like this, but we're not that. And everyone can breathe a big sigh of relief and just relax, because that's not what we are. So John, take it from here.
Okay, vertical marketing. Vertical marketing, we start talking about the differences and the difference in the structures. Typically what I'll do is I will talk about how JR was this master in the recruiting, prospecting end of things when he was first starting, and how it's difficult for the average person to do that. And this business is essentially built for the average person to be able to do well. I'll go to the setup here, and I'll tell them, typically I'll say, listen, this is set up for like a direct approach, and that's not really what I'm here for. I'm here to get you to evaluate the business. So when you see the U up there, all I'm doing is using that as an example. I'm if it's something you are interested in, great, but I'm not counting on that. I don't really take that into consideration. It's just an easier way to do it. I may use myself in there interchangeably, as opposed to the horizontal structure where you have a whole line of people that are working under you, and you have to try and maintain and manage all those people, and they're all in competition. Here we only have 2, which is the smallest multiplier in terms of teams. And I'll say teams. I won't say you just need to get 2 people, because really that's not the case. You're not going to just stop at 2 people. You're going to build teams. That's what this is all about. You're going to you're going to have your two teams set, because they're going to look at it and they're going to go, well, you just said, I only needed two people. Well, no, that's not absolutely true. And JR said that plenty of times. He says, I don't know where anybody got the idea that you only need two people. You're building teams. You're going to need more than that. But one of the things I will point out is that, like in the first structure, that top line is going to give, the points that they make are going to go up to the next person in the line. But it's going to go up at 100%. And I will bring this up when I am talking about the gross retail profit. I will use a couple of examples. I'll say, so let's say you were selling something and you made $50 of profit. Now you've got somebody working for you and they sell the same thing. What do you think would be fair for them to keep? And they'll say, well, I don't know, maybe 20%. And so, okay, well, 20% of 50 is what I think 20. So you think that would be fair? And they'll say yes. And I'll say, well, what about if you were that person that were doing the selling? Would you only want to make 20% of that? Well, if it's fair, then yeah, I wouldn't mind making that much. What do you think about 50%? Well, that'd be great. Well, what do you think about 75%? That sounds great. Well, what we have here is we're going to give you 100% of your retail profit. You get to keep that. But attached to that are going to be points, and those points are going to be what flow uphill like this. And not only from us on the first level, but when you get down to the second and to the third and to the last, everybody is going to be making points off of this model. And this is different than anything else that you've ever seen, because nobody makes 100% of 100% of anything in a traditional business structure or in a direct sales structure. The advantages here is it eliminates the pitfalls of competition, which we discussed before in the horizontal marketing. And I'll say to them, what kind of job do you have? And for example, for me, I'm a nurse. I will say, if it's another nurse, I'll say, how many times have you help somebody out when they needed it? And they'll say, well, we do that all the time. It's like it's also a team concept. And I'll say, yeah, but how many times do you get paid for that? How often do you get some kind of credit that's going to turn into some sort of a financial gain for you? It doesn't happen. You help people because you're a good person, and we all know those people out there that don't do squat and won't help anybody because they don't have to. They're going to make the same amount of money whether they work hard or whether they lay back. That doesn't happen here. It encourages collaboration and synergy. There are no percentages of level. I would argue that and say that there is only one percentage in this business, and that is 100%. And we use a term called 100% to infinity, and I'll bring that up specifically for what we're going to be doing later in the presentation. Everyone receives 100% credit for sales and volume generated infinitely. Again, 100% to infinity. There are no time limits, and there's an accrual until payout. We're in multiple industries. I'll bring up Shark Tank, which is something that Don also tends to do. People who are monsters in their industries because they've done so well, but they don't just sit on that one industry. They go out and they look at other people and other business opportunities to see if there's something that they want to get into that's going to diversify them. Because if anything happens with any one of their industries, they've got a cushion, which is exactly what we do. Right now, we're in a position where I would say it's a global pandemic, and people are freaking out about all this stuff to the point where they're closing businesses down. Well, when you think about it, each of these businesses that are closing, that they're calling non-essential, are only cornered in one market. You go to a restaurant now, it's takeout only. You've essentially cut out probably 80% of their business, and their servers aren't getting paid. So why wouldn't you want to branch out into other areas so that you can keep things covered? People are always going to buy stuff for their kids. They're always, and especially in this position when the only really safe way to do something like that is online. I mean, it just makes sense, and you get them again going, yeah, it does make sense. And again, 100% leverage. There are 5 steps to building an unfranchised business. Step 1, apply. 2, create. 3, qualify. 4, activate. 5, repeat. We're going to go into each of those in detail. This appeals to those firstborns. There's an application fee of $129.95. Now, I don't know about you, but my wife and I can go out for dinner and easily spend $130, depending on where we go and what we order food-wise. And if we have drinks, we can easily pass that. Now, when you consider that regular franchises like, and I'll use examples that people are real familiar with, like Subway. Subway starts for a franchise starts around $300,000 to get involved in a franchise with Subway. McDonald's, depending on where you're at, can go anywhere from $500,000 to over $1 million to get a franchise started. And we're talking about $130 here. That's a drop in the bucket, wouldn't you agree? And they're going to say, yeah, that doesn't seem like much at all. And I'll say to them, besides the application fee, you're going to get a trade magazine. You're going to get access to the training and seminar system, which is second only to Microsoft in this country. You're going to get access to the audio training series. You're going to get a back office, which helps you manage your business, and you're going to get websites. You're going to get 8 websites altogether. And probably the most important thing that I bring up is that there's coaching and mentoring by experienced franchise owners. Here again, it's going to be an example of what that person does or what that person is interested in, which you're going to find out before you actually get into showing the plan. If it's somebody that's a construction worker, I'm going to say, if you wanted to be a master electrician, would you go to a plumber and say, hey, show me how to wire a house? Of course not. That's ridiculous. They couldn't do it because that's not what they do. And I say, by the same token, if you wanted to make money, would you talk to your out of work uncle who believes that everything like this is a scam? Would you ask him for money advice? Of course not. You would go to people who are actively making money. If you want to be a millionaire, you want to talk to a millionaire. You want to mentor with them. You don't want to mentor with the guy next door that can't seem to, hold a job down, or is just barely scraping by because he's in debt up to his eyeballs and he's working his tail off to try and keep up. You want to go with people who know what they're doing, and we have a lot of those. Step 2, you're going to create. You're going to create what we call BV, or business volume. And I make a point to say BV, business volume, because a lot of times we get into the habit of saying, oh, you're going to open up a BDC, then we're going to go to the UBP, maybe we'll start you out with an HBP. People have no idea what any of that stuff is, especially if it's the first time that they're sitting down with you. Business volume, BV, is the point of value assigned to exclusive products to calculate commissions. What does that even mean? Well, do you go food shopping at a particular grocery store? Well, yeah. Around Thanksgiving time, depending on how much you've bought in their grocery store, do you get points towards the turkey? Well, yeah, this is the turkey. And this is literally what we had somebody come up and say to us one time. This is, I don't know, whoever knows Lauren Fizz, it was like she had this brain explosion epiphany, and she's like, oh my God, the points are the free turkey. And we had a good laugh because it was, it's a good analogy. I'll use that, I'll use gas points, whatever. And I point out that, how would you like to be the person that benefits from that? How would you like to have the business where you get cash commissions for that instead of gas or turkeys? Just makes sense, right? Again, you're trying to stimulate them to agree with you. IBV, or internet business volume, the point value assigned to any of our partner stores products or on Shop Local. There's going to be a difference in those two because, one, the business volume is going to be associated with our exclusive products. That's where all our big margins are because we're exclusive. The IBV, the internet business volume, is not going to be as much as the BV because we can't maintain an exclusive relationship with them. They're already established businesses. You can't go into Home Depot and say, hey, do you think you could sell your product only through my website? They're going to laugh at you. It's not going to work. But if you take advantage of that, at least you're able to get something for what you're spending your money on anyway. And that makes sense, right? Again, with the yes. The different ways to create BV and IBV. We've already talked about that. Personal use and shopping. That's the shopping annuity. Customer sales and shopping. You're going to keep 100% of your own profit, and you're going to buy from yourself, and you're going to get it wholesale. Why wouldn't you want to do this? Team sales and their shopping. Well, your team members are going to get to keep their gross retail profit, and everything they do in the way of points is going to come up to you. So it's in your best interest to help the people that are on your team. Everybody helps everybody. That's just the way it works. And you can see how that plays to the difference in the people that need the step-by-step approach versus the team approach versus the attention approach. You're going to get team players with that, and it's all, I mean, it's step 3. It's a 5-step process. Qualify your business development center. That's what we call these little squares here, and this is what they look like on the computer. You're not just going to jump into this and not give this any attention, because people are looking at what looks like a stack of Legos and they have no idea what you're talking about. This is what it looks like. You see the IBV and the BV on both sides. Those are your 2 teams going down the line there. In order to open your banks, that's what these little squares are. They're banks that are going to accumulate these BV and IBV points. You need to open these centers with 200 BV. And then this is another analogy that Nick Friday likes to use, that I like to use too. If you're going to open a coffee shop, what is probably the one product you should have on hand? Coffee, right? I mean, it's ridiculous. If you don't have anything there, how are you going to get people to use your business? So with my wife, it was makeup. When we started our last partner, it was nutraceuticals, because they wanted to be able to have product available to trial size market. And that gives you the 200 BV. And then it's really pretty when it fills up, because it's all turquoise and green like that. Step 4, activate. Now, again, I'm just going to say that this is me. If I decide I want to make money, then I have to activate my business. And the way I do that is I'm going to find one person to start my team on the left, and I'm going to have one person to start my team on the right. These are going to be 2 like-minded people who want to make money on what they're spending already, people who want to start businesses, people who want to become a little more financially independent and want to collect residual income and not just get paid for the time that they're putting in. Step 5, teach, manage, and repeat. So I've got Mark and I've got Kate. I've got my 2 sides started, my 2 teams started, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of work here, because chances are Mark and Kate have no clue what they're doing. They're not supposed to. If Mark is a construction worker, he may know a little bit about business, but he certainly doesn't know how this business works. And if Kate is a nurse, she knows what it's like to work a job and deal with people all the time. But again, she's not going to know what to do with these people or how to interact with them in order to get them started. And I always throw this in. I always tell them that it's my job to make sure you get paid. How you keep a business owner in business, you get them paid. How do you keep an employee loyal if you want to keep that employee? You get them paid. If you want to keep your businesses going, if you want your teams to do well and thrive, you have to step in and step up and make sure that these people have the tools that they need to make money, because that's what's going to keep them in the business. And I'll say, doesn't that make sense? And of course I'll say yes. And I'll say, now, does Mark know enough about this business to show Megan how to do it? Probably not. So I'm going to have to sit down with Mark and Megan, and we're going to go over how everything works, because this is a business that you're in for yourself, but not by yourself. This goes back to the whole synergistic idea. You want to work as a team. You start building teams like this. Once Sarah and Rick come along here on the left under Mark, he might know a little more about it, but he's still not going to know a whole lot. So we're going to help him with that. And we're going to make sure that Mark understands how to help Megan and Sarah and Rick, because we want him to take over eventually in the position of making sure he gets his people paid, gets their businesses underway, gets them started, gets them successful. And then the same over here on this side with Kate. We're going to make sure everyone understands how to get their people to apply, create, qualify, activate, and then all the way up to step 5, which is what we're at right now. Okay, so we've got 2 teams, and we're going to say that our senior partner, in my case, it would be Brittany Witcher. I'm here, Brittany's here. Brittany has somebody who wants to be involved in her business, and she's already got 2 teams built. She's not going to say, somebody's not going to come up to her and say, oh, I understand you're doing a business. This looks really interesting. Can you tell me about it? She's not going to say, yeah, I got my 2 teams, get lost. No, she's not going to do that. But she can't go any further in width. So there's only one place she can go, and that is to send her person all the way. Come on. Here we go. I'm jumping ahead here. All the way to the bottom of one side or the other. So now she is participating in making sure that these people that are on your team, including you, are going to get paid, or the person that's on her other side. This is what we do. We place people where we need them in order to accomplish our goals in business. If Mark is a real go-getter and he's got his team built from here all the way, down to like 20 levels, and Kate has got, maybe 5 levels over here, that's going to be our weak side. We're obviously going to put anybody new we have under Kate and start helping build her business out, because not only is that going to help her become more successful, that's going to get us more successful also. Our tracking system searches daily to infinity. Again, 100% to infinity. The computer is going to track and make sure that everyone's tallies are up to date, make sure that everyone's retail profit is calculated, everyone's BV and IVV is calculated, and they're going to store that information until the end of the week when we're going to end up getting paid. For example, if Ashley here under Mark's team orders some product, or has a customer that orders product, not only is she going to keep the 100% of the $30, that's hers. She keeps it, she did the work, she's going to keep that money. How often in your job do you get to keep the money that you're actually doing the work for? Doesn't happen very often. Here, that's all that we do. Now, on top of that, she's going to have 63 BV attached to that, which is not only she's going to keep at what percent? You get them to say it, 100%. Not only is she going to keep 100% of that, it's going to go 100% to Travis, 100% to Megan, 100% to Mark, to you, and then on up infinitely. Same thing on this side. Mike, okay, maybe he doesn't have any customers yet, but he's going to buy product, and that product, even though he's not going to make a gross retail profit off of it because he's getting it at wholesale, which means that he gets it a lot cheaper than anybody else, he's going to make the points attached to that either way. He's going to make 40 points of BV and 7 points of IBV. He's going to get 100% of those points. And as a result, 100% of those points are going to go to Jake. 100% are going to go to Ann and Ben. 100% to Kate. 100% to you. And it's going to go where? Infinitely. Okay, BV is tracked daily. Commissions are calculated weekly. So at the end of the week, everything comes back up. And depending on how much BV that you have, those points are going to build up in these banks. Once you hit 1,200 and 1,200 on each side, you're going to get a check for $300. That's the smallest amount you're going to get in this business. I've heard of people getting checks in other companies that weren't even as much as the stamp required, the postage required to send the check to the person. I'm sorry, but I don't need a check for like 59 cents. I'll stick with the 300, thank you very much. Okay, and it's cumulative. Once you hit another 1,200 points for a total of 24 on both sides, you get another $300. Cumulative to 3,600, you're going to get another $300. Then I'll do typically what Dawn does. I'll say, and what do you think is going to happen here? Because we want to continue to try and keep them engaged. They're going to say, oh, it's probably going to be another $300, right? Yeah, nope, sorry. It's going to be a total of $1,400. So for a total of 1,400 points that you have to make here. But that extra 200 points gets you a double payout. So you're going to get $300 twice over again here. That brings your total to $1,500 in BV that you've made for maintaining what we call the green flush here. Same thing is going to happen on the IBV side. It's not going to happen as quickly because, again, Our margins aren't that big on the IBV side, but it's still something. We're going to search infinitely, and then the same process happens for a total of $1,500 on the IBV side. I typically don't go into too much detail with a lot of this, because by now people are starting to get confused, and I'll even ask them. I'll tell them, you know, like, okay, how lost are you? And they'll be like, well, I think I'm keeping up. I'm like, okay, well, you got time to get lost, so don't worry about it. We're gonna get you real good and confused, and we'll talk some more about it after we're done. But these are the points that we're getting on our IBV side from companies like Home Depot, Ray's, Macy's, companies like that, Bloomingdale's, Walmart, places that you use all the time. Why wouldn't you shop there? If you don't have a product that you can make a big margin on, why wouldn't you go to a place where you can make some margin? And initially, when you get started, it's not going to happen as fast as you would want it to, but it's still going to happen. The bigger your teams get, the more collective points that you're going to get, and the faster you're going to get paid. For my wife and I, we green flushed, I think, the first time in 5 months. And then, I'm sorry, I think it was 7 months, and then 5 months after that. And then we hit a couple of big IPV payouts, and we did it in 2 weeks. And we just passed another one a couple of months ago, and we're getting ready to hit another one now. How bonuses are earned. Now, you know that bonuses with other companies are going to be limited by how much time you have to achieve those bonuses. And remember, we said one of the big things about this business, which I personally really like, is that this business is predicated on helping other people succeed. My job is to get you paid. If I'm successful, you get paid, I get paid, we're all happy. But the company threw something else in there. They said that if I can get one person paid on one side and one person paid on the other side to this 5,000 BV mark in the same week, I'll make still more money. We get Mark to cycle, we get Ann and Ben to cycle on the other side at 5,000 and 5,000. We're going to make $600 in a management bonus for a total of $3,600 per BDC per week. That's the potential that we have to earn there, and that's what we're aiming for. A lot of people will say, how is it even possible to have everything going up infinitely at 100% and 100% and 100%, allowing these people to keep their gross retail profit and not run out of money? I mean, it's true, we have an infinite volume search at 100%. I don't know any other company that has that. There are no time limits or months end. We have accrual until payout. That's one of the big deals with companies like Mary Kay or Shackley or Avon or any of those. They keep stringing you along to try and get you to work harder, but there's only a select few that can do it because they're not average at this particular kind of thing. They are way above average, and this business is built for the average person. And we have placement of people, and we can also place volume, which is something I didn't go over because this is a lot of information to take in. I like to compare it to trying to take a drink out of a fire hose. You're just going to end up all wet and messy, and you only got a little bit of a drink anyway. Well, typically what we've gone over so far is maybe the top 2 feet of the iceberg. The rest of it is all where you can't see it, but you'll be able to see it better the more times that you see this business plan. And I would recommend, if you want to be able to explain it well to someone else, or if you want to be able to appreciate if it's something that you want to do, that you see it a minimum of 3 times. I'll throw the 3 times in there, and then I'll typically say something like, yeah, it took me a lot more times than that to understand it, because it really did. I don't know how anybody could understand this after only 3 times. But in order to make this company liquid, soluble, fluid, the CEO did something I have never ever heard of any CEO doing ever in any company, and that is he capped his income per center. He built his business the same way we're building it. And in order to do that, he eliminated the downsides of the network marketing industry, what it says right here, and resolved them with the above concepts, and then secured the model by putting a cap in each earning center. So again, with the drink from the fire hose, I showed you an example of one BDC, or business development center. When you start, you actually get 3 of them. That's just going to complicate your thinking right now, so just keep track of what you understood with the first one. But if you're making $3,600 on one, $3,600 on the other, and $3,600 on the third every week, that starts to add up. I also will try to throw in that this is a merit-based business, that it doesn't care if you're black, white, yellow, red, green, purple, or orange. It doesn't care if you're a female. It doesn't care if you're a male. It doesn't care if you're handicapped. This business, if you work the business the way you're told to work the business from the people that have done this business before you, will make you successful. And as an example of that, and then I'll use Elizabeth Weber and Joanne Shu as examples of what you can do with that, and also throw in that they're able to do that with more than 3 web centers. And that's what leads me into the next bit of this, where we say that you can start another business once you've green flushed one business. Now, I point out to them that since there's only 2 places you can possibly go with them, you're going to build your team out. And now the people that were getting you paid, you're going to be doing the same thing for them. And that kind of just reaffirms the fact that that we're in business to help people and not just in business for ourselves. Because yeah, I forgot where I was going with that. Whatever. And then I'll sit down and I'll talk with them. You know, I appreciate your sitting down with me. I know that this is, you know, might not be something that you're interested in, but who do you know that would be interested in something like this? And you know, I'm sure everybody knows somebody that's a go-getter, somebody that hates their job, and again, try and get them to nod, and then tell them there's some people to consider: entrepreneurs who are interested in multiple streams of income, people looking for, you know, for a side hustle to make a little bit of extra money, people looking to make money from home, housewives that are looking for something to do while the kids are at school in order to bring more income to their families, people who want to work for themselves that are tired of working a job, and people with experience in network marketing. Those people that are working for companies like some of the companies we mentioned already, that are tired of making a small percentage of that income and want to make the whole, you know, the whole 100%. We're looking for those people. Now, just by talking to you, I get the feeling that you probably know a couple people like this, and you get them saying, yeah, I think I might know a couple. Well, who are they? You know, let's get on the phone and see if we can talk to some of them and see if there's any interest generated out there, and then we'll start talking about if they are interested. I'll start talking to them about doing a trial run, or finding a way to get them started in the black rather than starting blind. And we'll just take it from there. We'll start a follow-up. We'll send them some videos of stuff to listen to, and then I'm going to, if it's me personally showing the plan, I will set up a time with one of my upline, and try to set up a follow-up with them, and just get them to the next thing, and then try and get them to an event. Sorry, Pat, I kind of like crowded you out there because it was running late, and I see people kind of starting to yawn and stuff. So I decided to just kind of.
No, it's fine.
Do you have anything to add in there?
No, it's fine. You know, I only thing I would add is that when I'm showing the plan, I try to give real life examples of how that organization can expand, so they can picture how it could happen. You know, when I talk about sharing as a consumer instead of sharing as a business owner, because sometimes people are like, well, I'm not really into sales, I don't think I could sell really well, and I'm like, oh great, you'd be perfect, because the best people that are in sales will tell you that they're not salesy, and they just figure out what people want, and they just serve them and come from a place of service. And so the company actually teaches to share as a consumer. And so, when we talked about the whole rise of entrepreneurship, remember we talked about how many people are out there that are doing side hustles and all of that. So, as you agreed to that before, you can think or just imagine how many people that might be connected to you. And when we show this to somebody else, we're not going to be really focusing on if they'd be interested or not. We're going to be focusing on who they might know and who those people might know. And those business referrals are really valuable. And then we can work out something, or something's mutually beneficial for both of us if they work out, but if there's any interest, that's why at the end saying, based on what you've seen here, is there enough interest that, maybe for someone that you're thinking of, or maybe for yourself, that you might want to look into this a little further.
Right.
And they're kind of giving you permission to go forward, and so, but back to like Mark and Kate, I give real life examples. Like maybe you work with a coworker, and that coworker has a niece that, named Kate, who would be, who your coworker said, what, my niece would love this, and so you basically meet and have her evaluate it, and it's something that is for her based on that recommendation. Well, then Kate comes on board. So that was a very natural thing. No one was, trying to sell anybody or close anybody. It just happened naturally. That's how all these things happen. They just happen organically and naturally through relationships and through finding out what people want and so forth. And it's very natural. And I just try to reassure them, because I realize that the whole time I'm showing them this, they're trying to picture potentially if it's something that they could do, if it would work for them. And I'm trying to give them real life examples of how it works for people so they can relate, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially if it's somebody if you're talking to them in the beginning and you're trying to get an idea for what some of their dreams are, some of the things that they're looking forward to in their lives.
Right.
And they're talking about, oh, we would love to be able to go on a vacation more than, a couple of weeks out of the year. You can start saying, well, here's where you can start being able to afford to go on that vacation. Would you like to be able to go to Miami for a couple of weeks and make it a business write-off? You can do that because we have a convention there that you can go to, get paid, and then take some time off and spend in Florida.
Right.
One year, my wife and I, we went to Greensboro for the convention there. After the convention was over, we went to the Outer Banks for a week. It was a great time, and it was all a tax write-off because it was all business related.
Great. Exactly.
So finding out what people want, what people need, and just giving it to them, or giving them the opportunity to find it for themselves.
Right. Yep.
So based on what we've seen so far, does anybody have any questions about what we've covered, or anything that you would like us to address?
You guys did great. I know this ran late for one reason or another, but I'll tell you the truth. I'm so happy it's been recorded, because there's so many valuable pearls of wisdom that both of you mentioned here that I just never thought of. They're just points. They're like little secret gems. And I'm thankful for both of you guys. You're amazing.
Oh, thank you so much, sweetheart.
Yeah, you guys did a great job. That was excellent. Very, very good. The good thing about this is we can even take this like John did with my presentation on drawing it and turning it into a video. In fact, John, I'll send the recording over to you, buddy, and I think that'd be perfect to send it into like a playlist where you can break it up every 5-10 minutes, you did with my showing it out. We can do the exact same thing.
Okay, sure.
I think that'd be great. But you guys did awesome, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it. Congratulations for everybody who stayed on for the entire time. But I'm just really excited for people to learn this. There was so much great content throughout, and you guys did an amazing job. So I appreciate you guys doing this. And we're going to do another presentation on the follow-up and how to do the follow-up. Maybe we can do that next week. But anyway, Pat, great job. John, great job, man. We appreciate you guys. And give these guys some love as we wrap up. For those of you that stuck it out for the interim, they did an excellent job. There was so many golden nuggets throughout the whole entire presentation here, and I'm really impressed.
Well, attitude reflects leadership, and we've got some great leadership, I got to tell you.
We love you guys.
You guys are the bomb.
Great job.
Cool. Awesome.
All right, John. Just hit you hit end webinar for all, John. You're in control. Great job.
Okay, what am I doing?
You're just ending it, I guess.
Cool.
All right. Talk to you guys later.
Yeah, see you.
Good night, fellas.
Bye-bye.